All right, everybody, welcome to the Backstage Pastor. Today is a little bit different than all the other podcasts we have done so far. All the other podcasts, I've had somebody on. Tiana and I have had conversations, me and Vadim and Logan, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis, Erica, the Wards. Like we've just had lots of different conversations, kind of interview style, picking people's brains. Finding out what makes them tick. But today's a little bit different because I, if you'll notice, have nobody beside me to my left or to my right. It's just me. It's just me and you. And I've been wanting to do this for a while now and possibly would like to do this maybe every 6 to 8 weeks. And what I want to do today is share my top 7 quotes that have changed my life, and I think will change your life as well. These are my top 7 quotes. They're from all different people, heroes of mine. We have a quote we got Elon Musk in here. We got Erwin McManus. We have Chris Valentin, Chad Veach, a pastor down in LA. We have Brandon Turner, real estate guy. We have Paul the Apostle, Bible guy, early Christian, and we have Jesus. Some of you might know him. He's a big deal. And then we have Ken Dick from the Freedom Sessions 12-step program. So these are quotes that I have collected over my life, and I actually spent a while this morning just writing down and collecting and putting all these quotes kind of into one specific area. There's so many. Like I have like 100 here that have been life-changing, but I've narrowed it down for you, thank the Lord, to 7 quotes. And these have changed how I live. These have changed my life. These have changed mine and Tiana's lives. These have affected how we view the Lord. These have affected decisions that we make. These have affected buying real estate, buying homes. These have affected us as leaders, who we aren't, how to be patient, how to become a better version of you. There's so many different areas that these heroes of mine represent and these quotes represent. So I would love to just share them with you. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter podcast. Hopefully, although I am a preacher and can sometimes get preachy, which might happen here this morning, but my hope for you is that you go away and maybe one of these just pierces your heart and changes your life, how my life has been radically changed from these quotes. So here's the first one. Drum roll, please. Dun-dun-dun-dun. This is an Elon Musk quote. This one rocks me. Stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. Let me say that again. Stop trying to optimize something that should not exist. If any of you guys know anything about Elon Musk, he's a hero of mine. I don't condone everything he does or his information or wisdom on relationships or on raising children or on, several areas of his life, but he is so inspiring to me. He is the creator and inventor and CEO of Tesla, of the electric car company, the CEO of the Boring Company, creating underground tunnels in large cities. He's the CEO of Twitter, now X. He's the CEO of SpaceX, rocket ships trying to get to Mars. Simple stuff, kind of small companies. He also happens to be the richest man in the world. I think he's worth about 450 billion right now, which is more than you and I have in our bank accounts combined, probably. Winky face if you're listening to this on the not on YouTube with the video audio only. Which, by the way, you can find this on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Instagram and Facebook. The Backstage Pastor. So stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. This is amazing. A couple months ago, I was riding in a Tesla. Beautiful car. Loved them. I was driving. The thing drives itself. Like, it's wild. It actually just drives itself. Like, drove from Vancouver airport to, I forget what it was called, Harrison Hot Springs Resort up in Chilliwack there for a pastor's conference. The thing drove me for like an hour. It's just wild. And looking around that Tesla and thinking of this quote, stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. If you've ever ridden in a Tesla or seen how Elon Musk operates, you see this quote comes to life in every single area. You look around the Tesla, there's so many things in that Tesla that simply do not exist because they do not need to exist. And I think other vehicle companies specifically have these things exist because, well, vehicles have always had this. For example, a couple just small examples. You know the lock, when you lock your door, there's like a thing that goes up and down and you can like sometimes pull it or you see it go up and down. Doesn't exist on a Tesla. Stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. What the heck is that for? It doesn't need to exist. Get rid of it. All your dash dials and volumes and heater and adjust this and adjust that. Like, everything is condensed on a Tesla into one screen. There is like not a button other than a couple on your steering wheel. I think there's two on the steering wheel. They're both like rolling knobs on the Tesla. Everything is on the screen. Stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. You don't need all these dials, all this clutter, everything, everywhere. You actually don't need it. When it comes to SpaceX, it's the exact same thing. There's so many stories of, Elon Musk trying to buy his first rocket from Russia when he sold PayPal. And I forget what he sold it for, but he had, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions. And he realized that these guys selling these rockets are marking it up 50 times the price what I could do, what I could make it for on my own. Stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. So Elon Musk in an interview the other day, I forget who it was with, he says the first thing he does when he comes to, his engineers, his inventors, when they're trying to create something, he says, can we delete this? Is there anything on this that we can delete and completely get rid of? That's the very first thing that he does. And he also says, I think the reason that people are afraid to delete is because they might have to add it back. He's like, we have to add back about 10% of the stuff that we delete, which we know and understand that we will, but people become afraid of deleting stuff or pruning things in their life because they might actually need to add it back. So when you take this principle, this quote, I would say specifically for leaders, if you are a leader, if you're a pastor or you're a business owner or you lead people, which by the way, a leader is just someone who has influence, and you have influence by adding value to somebody's life. So if you add value to somebody's life, you have influence, which means you are a leader. The question to constantly be asking, and this is the question I'm always asking here at Evangel, because it's so easy to just add. We're adding this, and we're adding house fires, and we're adding a board game cafe, and we're adding prayer summit, and we're adding Big G's Big Money, and we're adding a Dave Ramsey course, which is going to be announced this Sunday. We're adding, and we constantly are looking at our calendar and trying to determine what do we need to take away or prune. Or what are we doing? Here's a better question. What are we doing or trying to optimize and make better that actually should not even necessarily exist maybe in the church or in your personal life? Are there things that we're doing? Even boil this down to like the Sunday morning, the structure of the North American church, how it plays out. Call of worship, and then a transition person, and then announcements, and then a preacher, then an altar call, and coffee. Don't forget coffee. There's always good coffee before and after the service at Evangel. But there's so many things that we need to constantly be asking. Are we just trying to optimize this and make it better? Or should this be wiped out completely and we slaughter this sacred cow and it should no longer exist? Brilliant question to ask. And it's biblical too. the pruning, the vine and the branches, how the farmer comes along and actually prunes every branch that does not bear fruit. It's like there's things in your life that you need to stop trying to optimize. You actually just need to cut it out or cut it off completely, specifically in a business, specifically in a church, and specifically as a leader. So there you have it. Elon Musk, stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. That's my MO for a lot of things. I don't always do it perfectly, but trying to get there. Number 2, this is Erwin McManus, and he says this from his book, The Last Arrow. Jesus changes us so that we can change our life. Jesus changes us or me so that I can change my life. And it's this beautiful, I was talking about this actually this last Sunday. It's this beautiful balance of us working together with God, the beautiful marriage of God working and us work. My dad always said, when we work, God works. And you see this right in Genesis, in the very beginning, where God gave the running of the universe and all authority to Adam and Eve to govern and rule over everything. And then it was lost through sin, and then it was regained through Jesus. But Jesus changes me so that I can change myself. I shared this verse from Colossians 1, chapter 1, verse 29 on Sunday. It says this, Paul says this, "For this I toil." Toiling is something that I do. I like manual labor. For this I toil. Struggling, that word struggling is more like an athlete or a soldier or training. That's also something that I do. So for this I toil and am struggling with all of his energy that he powerfully works back in me. So I'm struggling and toiling with all of with everything that I have, with all of his energy that he is powerfully working in me. This beautiful dance between God waiting for us to step into action, or waiting for the church, or waiting for his sons and daughters to step in and start walking in the authority that he has already given them, like Adam and Eve, and then restored, as we see in Romans chapter 8, through the cross of Jesus Christ. So it's this beautiful marriage, which means that we do not simply pray a prayer and then sit on our couch and wait for God to answer it. Sometimes that happens, but we pray a prayer, then we ask the question, okay, how am I a part in answering this prayer? Because if you look back on all your prayer requests that you've ever prayed, almost every single one, you will see that you played a part in the answering of the prayer. And I'm not belittling from the power of God. He is this God with unlimited power. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. But we play a part. There's this beautiful dance. And you see this, I shared this a couple weeks ago, but you see this in 1 Kings chapter 17 and 18, and then James 5 revisits it, where it talks about Elijah. Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed earnestly that it would not rain in the land for 3 years and 6 months, and then it did not rain in the land for 3 years and 6 months, and then he prayed again, and it rained in the land. But 1 Kings 18 verse 1 says, it was God's idea to send the rain. But God waited for Elijah the prophet to pray a prayer releasing the rain, which was originally God's idea. Prayer is releasing him to act. So you just see this beautiful picture of God partnered with his people on the planet. And together, it's an unstoppable force. So Erwin McManus, Jesus changes me so that I can change myself. Beautiful. Number 3. This one's powerful. This will change you. This quote should wreck you, should challenge you, should poke you and prod you. This is from Chris Valentin, pastor down in Redding, California, Bethel. And he says this: anyone can see what's wrong with a business, a person, an organization, a city, but it takes a kingdom mind to see what it could be, or what that person, city, organization, or business could actually be. So anyone can see what's wrong with the person or business or church or organization or city or nation. Anyone can. Like, think about it. You go on Facebook. It's like everyone, like you are just like 99.9% of the people. If all you can see is what's wrong with something, if all you can see is the potholes, if all you can point out are the growth areas and negative qualities of a person, if all you can point out is where the church falls short, if all you can point out is where the city falls short, you are an average Joe. And I mean this and feel so passionate about it. You are just like everyone else. And I would almost say there's nothing special about the way that you are thinking if all you are seeing is the negative or the growth areas of something. Any unsanctified, unsurrendered mind can see that. Duh, that's kindergarten, that's baby. If that's how you're thinking, I just want to be super firm on that. You are on milk. You are on milk. And I know this because this used to be me. I would walk into church, sit at the back of the church, arms just crossed like this, and just judge the pastor. He probably didn't study very much. He's just BSing. He's just full of bull crap. This is this worship song theologically correct? This place is full of hypocrites. It's like, well, duh. Like every place is. The gym is full of there's fat people in the gym. That doesn't mean you stop going to the gym just because there's big people or unfit people at the gym. It's like, yes, we're all messed up people. We get that. But that used to be me. And when I heard this quote, which is scripturally backed up, that it's like you are like nobody else if that's all you could see. You are the unsanctified mind, the mind that is not bent on holiness, if that's all you see. Congratulations. But the rest of the quote from Chris Valentin says, anyone can see what's wrong, but it takes a kingdom mind. It takes a kingdom mind to see what that person, that business, that church, that organization, that city could be. And you see this in the story of David, where everyone sees a shepherd boy and God sees a king. God sees the potential. God sees what David was supposed to be. And it's no different with you too. It's like God sees who you're supposed to be. I love this story from Ed Milet, author, motivational speaker, Christian guy, just super rad dude. He's impacted me a ton. He says, I think when we get to heaven, he says, when I get to heaven, I think God has an iPhone. And on the iPhone is a video of your life, of who you were meant to be, who you were supposed to be. And God's going to show me that video of who I was supposed to be operating at 100%, of who I was supposed to be walking in my full God-given identity, who I was supposed to be walking in the gifts of the Spirit and the fruit of the Spirit. And he's going to measure it up to who I actually was. And he says, Ed Milet, I want that video to be the spitting image of who I actually was, of who I actually was. That's how God sees. He sees this potential of who he created you to be, and it's up to us to actually step into that. So just want to summarize this. Anyone can see what's wrong with a business, organization, city, person, nation, leader, political leader, pastor, house, job, coworkers, whatever. Anyone can. You're not special if you can see that. Everyone can. But it takes a kingdom mind. It takes a transformed mind to see what it actually could be. So I want to challenge you. Start training yourself. When you see a pothole, when you see something wrong with the church, when you see a shortcoming of a person, when you see a shortcoming of a political leader or a pastor or of a city or whatever it is, say, Holy Spirit, can you show me what this actually could be and what the potential is here? Could you show me how you're seeing this? I want to see with your eyes. I want to hear with your ears. It will change you. It will change you. Okay? Here's another one. Number 4, quote, this is so good. I feel so passionate about this. 2 years ago, or 2022, I guess now, one of our prayer targets was revival with character, because character or revival without character will implode. We want revival, but we also want the character and the capacity to carry out the revival that God wants to pour out on us, on Evangel, on this city, on this nation. And so Chad Veach, a pastor down in LA, I don't think his church is affected by the fires. I've been watching him a bit on Insta, but he's right in the middle of it. Their church is very involved. He says this: your gifting will get you where your character cannot keep you. Your gifting will get you where your character cannot keep you. In other words, you might be a gifted person. You might be a gifted speaker. You might be a talented musician. You might be a gifted worship leader. You might be a gifted businessman. You might be a gifted piano teacher or a gifted mom or a gifted leader. And that giftedness culture will elevate because they see talent. They see potential. They see giftedness. And culture automatically elevates that. I remember there was a artist, and he was very open about this. His name was Kirk Franklin. Listen to him back in the day. Super cool guy. But he, later in his singing career, confessed that most of his life he'd been deeply addicted to pornography. And he said, he's like, the problem with the church is that the gifted slide right on through all the filters and all the stops because this person has talent. This person has a gift. And nobody stops to question the character that needs to go with the gifting to hold up the gifting. So your gifting will get you where your character cannot keep you. Your gifting will get you on the platform. Your gifting will get you views. Your gifting will get you a status or a place or a seat at the table. But it's your character that keeps you there. It has to be your character that keeps you there. I'm just looking here at some of my notes just from these quotes. 1 Peter 5:6 says, therefore humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Therefore humble yourself under the mighty hand of God. This is New King James. That he may exalt you in due time. If you skip that process of the season of humbling yourself and allowing God to humble you and work on the person before the purpose or the minister before the ministry, if you skip that process, you will get to a place or to a platform or to a place of influence or a level that you will actually implode because your character was not developed enough to keep you there. That was New King James. Listen how the Message, Eugene Peterson paraphrases this. It says this. And I read this verse for 7-8 years. I remember going to the Lord like, Lord, I just want to, do business. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to lead pastor. I want to do all these things. He kept bringing me back to this verse, 1 Peter 5:6. And this is how Eugene Peterson puts it. So be content with who you are. Whew. This is for somebody listening right now. So be content with who you are. And don't put on airs. God's strong hand is on you. Just close your eyes right now, unless you're driving. Don't close your eyes if you're driving. Just take this in. Be content with who you are. Don't put on airs. God's strong hand is on you. He'll promote you at the right time. Live carefree before God because he's most careful with you. He will promote you at the right time. Your job is to live carefree and humbly before God, and he will promote you at the right time. You can trust that God has good things for you. He's a good God, and he's going to lift you up. He's going to promote you at the right time, when he knows that you have the character and capacity to carry what he wants to give you. Because if you think about it, if he's a good God, if he is a good father, the last thing he wants is for you to implode. The last thing he wants is for you to have an affair and be in a place of leadership that it affects hundreds and thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands. And we see this all the time from spiritual leaders, from pastors. The last thing he wants. And so he needs to know that he can trust you with the little. There needs to be this process worked out through this season where it's like he's given you little and can trust you with it, and then he gives you more. He needs to know that he's not casting his pearls before swine. He needs to know that you will steward and facilitate everything that he gives you. He needs to know that you will not get proud as soon as you're given this platform or this mic or this stage. Your gifting will get you where your character cannot keep you. So I want to say this. If you are in a place where you are not necessarily living your dream or living prophetic words that the Lord or people have spoken over you, don't worry. You keep doing everything possible to push towards that. You keep praying into it. But do not worry. God's strong hand is on you. And at the right time, he will lift you up. And let me tell you, when he lifts you up, there ain't nothing you can do about it. It is the Lord. Your job is to humble yourself in the sight of the Lord so that he can lift you up. He's lifting you up and there's nothing you can do about it. And that is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, I've been faithful. And by the way, this happens throughout. There's little moments throughout our whole life where you're seasons where you're humble and then he lifts you up. But this happens your whole life. It's a beautiful thing. Chad Veach, your gifting will get you where your character can't keep you. Love you, Chad. That's so motivational to me. Okay, 3 more. I talked about this last Sunday. This is from Brandon Turner. Gonna get a little bit of coffee. When I don't have somebody else to talk on here, I get a little preachy and I need a little coffee sip every once in a while. So this is Brandon Turner he used to be part of the Bigger Pockets, which is a real estate podcast, and they write a whole bunch of real estate books. It has been super helpful for me in investments and real estate and understanding cash flow and interest and down payments and playing the game, playing the system. So he calls this, and I don't know if he came up with this, but this is where I heard it from, so I'm going to give him creds. Brandon Turner. Shout out to you, Brandon. You're amazing. I think he's also a youth pastor, actually, too, or helps with the youth in his church. Super rad, dude. Number 5. This is called the most critical next step practice. So this isn't a quote, but it's something that will change your life. It's changed my life. I did this last Sunday. So in your prayer life, in your goals, in your dreams, in your vision that you have for your life, you have your big dreams, you have your big goals. And those goals might be, small-ish, like, okay, I'm going to eat healthy, or I'm going to make my bed when I wake up. And those dreams and goals might be huge. Like, I want to see 1 million people come to the Lord, or I want to see this many people healed. I want to see this many salvations. I want to raise 5 God-fearing, Jesus-loving, Holy Spirit-empowered children that change the world. They might be big, they might be small. We all have dreams. We all have standards. We all have goals. We all have prayer targets. We all have prayer requests. So what I did this last Sunday, I was talking about the marriage between how God works and we work, where Paul says, Colossians 1:29, for this I toil, struggling with all his energy that he powerfully works within me. And so I had everyone on Sunday. We did listening prayer, listen to JC, to Jesus. and asked him, what do you want to do in, through, or around me in 2025? What's one big thing, or maybe two, that you want to do in, through, and around me in 2025? And we listened. We dreamed big. If money was no issue, if fear of man was no issue, what do you, Jesus, want to do in, through, and around me? We took, 2 minutes of silence. You can go back and listen to the live stream. And we write down our big dream, big goal, which I want you to do right now, actually, unless you're driving a car, all you podcasters who are driving your cars. Pull over, put your weights down in the gym. If you have a second, just write down or bring to mind a big goal or dream that you have for 2025. Maybe it's a prayer request that you have already prayed or asked Jesus about. Maybe it's something you've been praying for 10 years, 20 years. So you have that dream, you have that goal. Most critical next step does this. This is how you get from this obscure kind of cloudy dream prayer request vision, how you make it super practical and start doing your part today. And this might be a prayer request. This might just be a goal. This might be a fitness goal. This might be a goal or a dream to buy a house. Let's take buy a house. 7 years ago, Tiana and I realized we wanted to buy a house. And so we started saving up. We saved like crazy. Like we, didn't do Starbucks. We were able to put away, I think at that time, $1,500, maybe $2,000 a month, and saved for 2.5 years, a down payment for our first home. So if the dream or the goal for me was, let's buy a house. Okay, we want to buy a house. We know that's the big goal. Most critical next step says, okay, Jimmy, your dream is you want to buy a house. What do you need to do to buy a house? Okay. Write that down. Write that down right now with your big dream, your big goal, your big prayer target. Mine was buy a house. Okay, what do I need to do to buy a house? Okay, I'm going to need some money. Okay, you need money. What do you need to do to have money or a down payment for a house? Well, we're going to need to save. Okay, you need to save. What do you need to do to save? I need to spend less than I'm saving. I need to save more than I'm spending. Okay, Jimmy, what do you need to do to save more than you're spending? We need to make a budget. Okay, what do you need to do to make a budget? I need to sit down with Tiana and talk and get, go online, Dave Ramsey, whatever. There's budgets everywhere. There's budget apps up the yin yang. We need to go through and just write out everything. Tiana and I for years did the cash envelope system, which we loved. It just broke us free from like tap, 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 swipe, swipe, swipe. So that every time you ate out or bought a Starbucks, it was painful to see that $50 bill go or that $100 bill. It just broke us out of the credit card. Which, by the way, talking about money, we're doing a Big Jesus Big Money February 6th in the lobby, 7 p.m. And then that's breaking into a Dave Ramsey course, which Luke, my brother, is going to be leading. Super powerful. Luke's an amazing leader, very successful in the financial world. Okay, where was I? Okay, Jimmy, what do you need to do to save money? Need a budget. Okay, what do you need to do to have a budget? I need to sit down with Tiana and get all these line items and figure out what we're going to spend each month. Okay, what do you need to do to sit down with Tiana? I need to schedule a time in my calendar. What do you need to do to schedule a time in your calendar? I need to grab my phone right now and schedule a time. What do you need to do to grab your phone right now? Nothing. I'll grab my phone right now. Boom. Here's my phone. I grab it. I open it up. I go to calendar. Open up my calendar here. Schedule. Boom. Meet Tiana for budget. 8 p.m. tonight after the kids fall asleep perfectly because they always fall asleep amazing. Not. So, going back to the beginning. What do I need to do the goal, the dream is to buy a house. What do I need to do to buy a house? I need to grab my phone and schedule a meeting with my wife to lay out a budget. Okay, most critical next step or most important next step. That I can do. I can't necessarily it's quite impractical to just say I need to buy a house. What does that mean? It just feels like this cloudy, foggy Care Bear and Sunshine idea. It's just an idea. But I can grab my phone and schedule a meeting with Tiana. All of a sudden, your dream, your goal has meat. It has steps. Sometimes we call this step prayers. Most critical next step, which, by the way, you can do this in every area of your life. We did this on Sunday. Go back and watch the live stream. It was powerful. Guy stands up. He says, my dream is to get out of debt. Has massive Visa debt from a gambling addiction. Shared this in front of everybody and built it back, brought it back through these questions. What do you need to do? What do you need to do? What do you need to do? And it came down to, I need to go to bed. I need to shut down my life at 8 p.m. Okay, you can do that. The debt, that's a big deal, but you can start with shutting down your life at 8 p.m. It's huge. All your prayer targets, all your dreams, all your visions, this is huge. I'm not kidding you. This is huge. So many of the things that have happened in our life have come from me and Tiana sitting down and doing most critical next step, even in church world and business world. So in church world, we want to have a culture of worship, for example. We want to have people that don't just do worship, they worship. And we want to have worship leaders and a band that doesn't just worship on Sunday morning. They worship backstage. They worship in their house. They worship in the secret. Okay, what do we need to do to have a worship culture? Okay, well, we need to worship more than just a Sunday morning. Okay, what do we need to do that? Well, we probably need to search the scriptures on why we even worship, and you build it back, you build it back, and build it back. You want to get married. Maybe you're a young adult. You want to get married. That's the big dream. You build back. Okay, what do you need to do to get married? You build it back. Well, I need to get my hair cut. Need to cut my hair. That's the first step. Okay, cool. You can do that. I mean, marriage, that's a big thing. That's a big kind of thing. How do you start? Not sure. But if I build it back, and in your words, it builds back to needing to get a haircut. Okay, go get a haircut. It's huge. Most critical next step. Boom. 2 more for you guys. I hope these are hitting, by the way. I hope these are hitting. I'm giving away secrets, different books I've read. Actually, most of these are books. Maybe 1 or 2 are podcasts. 2 of them are the Bible. Jesus, Paul. Okay. Number 6. 2 more. This is Paul. This is a promise, a truth that you need to hang onto. Paul says this. He's a pretty cool guy. He wrote most of the New Testament. He said, do not be deceived. Okay, so there could be deception involved here because he's saying you make sure you're not deceived. Don't lie to yourself. Don't be deceived. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For what a man sows, that will he also reap. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For what a man sows, that will he also reap. Bill Johnson says this. Write this down or replay this, what I'm about to say. He says, it is mockery to the very nature of who God is. You're mocking God. It is mockery to the very nature of who God is to think that you can sow into the kingdom and not reap a reward. Whoa. It is mockery to the very nature of who God is to think that you can sow into his kingdom and not reap a reward. This is a kingdom principle. If you sow into the kingdom and invest where it matters long term, eternity, if you invest into his kingdom, caring for the orphans and widows and the tithe, and invest into your local storehouse, the church, the local church, and into these missionaries, supporting missionaries and giving to your local pregnancy care center and helping the poor, investing where it matters. Do not be deceived. Don't think that you're going to give and not see a harvest from it. It's a kingdom principle. In fact, it would mock the very nature of who God is to think that you could sow into his kingdom and he will not pour back or would not pour back into your life. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For what a man sows, that will he also reap. I can promise you this. If you sow into God's kingdom, you will reap a reward. You will. There's no questions asked. This is a kingdom principle. And so I want to talk to two people, the people that are sowing into God's kingdom. And it's not just money, by the way. It's time, effort, blood, sweat, tears, and money. To those who are sowing into God's kingdom, and Tien and I are lead the way in this. Like, we believe this principle. We believe the principle of the tithe. We believe this kingdom principle that you can sow into his kingdom, and it's a promise that you will reap a reward. And to think that you won't, you're actually mocking God. I want to encourage the people that are sowing into the kingdom. Just wait. Just you wait. You will reap a reward. You will. And I want to challenge and encourage the people who maybe are on the fence or do not sow into the kingdom. Try it. This is the only place in Scripture where God says, test me in this. Test me. Like, come on, try me. Test me. You cannot sow into my kingdom without reaping a reward. It's a kingdom principle. Boom. Okay, last one. This is from Freedom Session, creator of Freedom Session. I don't know if he came up with this. This is where I heard it, so I'm going to give him creds as well. His name's Ken Dick. I actually met him one time in the bathroom. We actually peed beside each other, just full disclosure. He was at one urinal and I was at the next. I wanted to get his autograph and say hi, but it's just a little bit of an awkward place to say hi, peeing beside a hero of yours. So I didn't. Praise the Lord. But he says this, and this is from the 12-step program, Freedom Session, which changed my life, helped me be set free from addictions, learning what sin is and how we operate in drugs of choice, and needing Jesus, something outside yourself to find freedom. You can't find freedom within yourself. So, and then my sister and I, Mary, who's married to Vadim, pastor here at Evangel, we took this once or maybe twice, at least once in Bible school. And then we brought it back to Evangel here probably 10 years ago and ran it for 2-3 years. Beautiful, amazing program. It says this, which I'm sure you've heard this before. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. The definition of insanity is to do the same freaking thing over and over. Staying up late, going to bed at midnight, eating unhealthy, living off energy drinks, speaking a certain way, thinking a certain way, treating people a certain way, running and working out a certain amount, whatever it is. It's insanity to think that you could do the same thing over and over and over, but expect a different result. It doesn't happen. It won't happen. It will not happen. Let me be clear about that. It will not happen. If you want a different result, you have to change something that you're doing. So it's month of prayer and fasting right now, and Tiana and I are eating meat and vegetables, and I'm eating fruit. Tiana's just doing meat and vegetables. I love fruit. And I'm loving it. So we're doing no carbs except fruit. Turns out fruit is a carb and some natural sugars. Who invented that, by the way? But we're doing no flour, no rice, no potatoes, and no sugar. I feel amazing. I feel so great. Spiritually, clear mind, physically. And I am losing some flub that I had around the middle, specifically from Christmas time. I'm down about 10 pounds, which I didn't want to lose 10 pounds. I wanted to stay at 250, but now I'm 240. But I'm loving it. I'm thinking so clearly. I love the discipline in my life. I love all of it. So for me to think that I could get abs and keep eating and keep working out the exact same way that I always had is insanity. It would be insanity for me to think that continuing the path that I was on would get me a different result. If here's a question. If you look down the road 10 years, what you are doing right now in your life, what you are doing, the decisions you're making, which, by the way, where you are, for the most part, there's some exceptions, things that happen to you, but there's still decisions that need to be made out of that. Where you are in your life is a direct result of decisions that you've made in the past. And where you will be is a direct result of decisions you are going to make in the present. So if you look down your life, if you look at the trajectory of your life and decisions you're making right now, friends that you have, food that you're eating, time you're spending with the Lord or not, time you're spending in Scripture or not, and you are looking down the road 10 years, that alone, by getting a longer perspective, is going to help you make the decision that, oh, if I keep doing what I'm doing, this is going to be where I'm at in 10 years. And in 10 years, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be dealing with this issue in 10 years. I don't want to be this unhealthy in 10 years. I don't want to be this distant from God in 10 years. I don't want to be this bound in sin in 10 years. I don't want to be this broke in 10 years. I don't want to be. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over, but expect a different result. Listen, this is just truth. If you want a different result, look at your life and ask yourself, okay, if I want a different result, I'm going to need to change something right now to affect the future. I need to change something in the present in order to affect the result of who I'm going to be in the future. Do not be deceived. Do not fall into the trap that you think that doing the exact same thing over and over and over is going to get you a different result. It's not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. There might be the tiniest exceptions, but for the most part, it's not going to happen. You actually need to change it. Okay? So I'm just going to do all these quotes here. Again, Elon Musk, stop trying to optimize something that shouldn't exist. Boom. Erwin McManus, Jesus changes me so that I can change myself. Chris Valentin, anyone can see what's wrong with a business, organization, person, city, church, whatever, but it takes a kingdom mind to see what that could be. Chad Veach, your gifting will get you where your character cannot keep you. Jesus says, for everyone who exalts himself, I missed this verse earlier, for everyone who exalts himself shall be humbled, and he who humbles himself shall be exalted. Brandon Turner, most critical next step, what's the dream? And then building it back. What do you need to do that? Paul, superhero in the scripture, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For what man sows, that will he also reap. And then Ken Dick, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over, but expect a different result. Okay, I love you guys. Let me know if this was helpful or you enjoyed this, I love having people on. We're going to have Marion Vadim on and talk some deep talk here in a couple of weeks. Going to have George Bergen on, and we've got some other wild ideas. So let me know if this is helpful in the comments. I love you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.